You're listening to the Presence Pioneers podcast. Hey everyone, welcome to today's podcast episode. I'm your host, Matthew Lilley, here with special guest Kelanie Webb, and we're going to talk all things worship, creativity, leadership today, and so I'm so excited for this conversation. Hey, if you're new to the podcast, I just want to welcome you. Thank you for checking us out and tuning in today. We want to help you to experience and host the presence of God, because we believe God's presence changes everything. And so if you like worship, prayer, revival, missions, if these things are in your heart, then you found the right podcast. We love to do Bible teachings and interviews with leaders. And so please hit follow or subscribe wherever you're tuning in today. For those of you who are part of the podcast community, thank you so much for tracking with us. We love it when you leave a comment, share this on social media, like, rate, review, all the different things, all the ways to engage with us and share this podcast with your friends. We really appreciate that. All right, Kelanie, welcome back to the podcast.
Hey, it's good to be with you, Matthew. I can't believe you told me earlier it's been 4 years.
4 years,
I
yes.
can't believe that. That's amazing.
Yeah, I went back episode 72. If you guys want to go look it up, you can find the conversation from 4 years ago. It's up on YouTube. And so I know you've been up to a lot of things. I want to find out what you've been up to the last 4 years and what God's doing. Before that, I have a question, opening question. Do you have any funny worship leading stories, like embarrassing or just weird or just something that sticks out in your mind from leading worship over the years?
Oh, I mean, we could start with this morning. I mean,
That's hilarious.
This morning I told everybody it was Wednesday and it was Thursday, so there's always something. But
that's amazing.
You know, I've probably done some of the usual faux pas, like putting my capo on the wrong fret, or walking off the stage while I'm still plugged into my Aviom or whatever I was using at the time. But
yeah.
I have a lot of funny stories. I travel.
Whatever that one was that just popped into your mind, it's got to be a good one.
Try to think, because I've traveled a lot, and you know, over the years, and witnessed. You know, because in the world that you and I probably frequent, and kind of the charismatic and more prophetic streams. Yeah, there are a lot of interesting people. Do interesting things during worship. And there was one time when someone showed up with a stick horse, like one of those, little pony things with a stick. Yeah. It was definitely homemade because it had a white face with like purple yarn for the mane, and the eyeballs were drawn on. And she proceeded to ride the horse around the auditorium during worship. And when she got tired of riding the horse, she just hoisted it up in the air and waved it back and forth in the air. I was like, this is fantastic. I mean, the Lord, He loves all of us and all of our funny expressions.
Totally. That's amazing.
So that's just a story that's always stood out in my mind. I still laugh about it.
That's a great one. Yeah, thank you for sharing that. That's awesome. Yeah, you create an environment of creativity and freedom, and all kinds of stuff happens, right?
That's right. You just have to be ready for that, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, if you shut everything down, you know, you get get rid of some of the weird, but then you get rid of some of the good stuff too if you're not careful. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
So, Kelanie, what have you been up to the last 4 years?
Well, I mean, the last time you and I talked, I was living in Jacksonville, Florida. Yeah. I was on staff at a church there, and then received the invitation to step in as the worship director at Morningstar Ministries, which many of your listeners will be familiar with. Yeah. We're located just outside of Charlotte, North Carolina, in a town called Fort Mill, South Carolina. So I live on the border between the two states. But So we prayed about it. My husband Gary and I really sought the Lord, whether this was an assignment for him or not, because we knew it wouldn't be an easy assignment. It would be challenging in a lot of ways, but we really felt like it was the Lord. So we started that adventure of moving and finding a house, and it was down. It was kind of one of those things where we kept. That was when the market was really hot, and it was that thing where a house would go on the market, and everyone would pounce and offer, way above asking price, and there were all these bidding wars, and so we came back and forth from Jacksonville to here at Morningstar several times to house hunt, and it was really discouraging because we kept putting in offers and not getting it, and that sort of thing. And in the meantime, I was training with David Villier. He was the one who preceded me.
Yeah.
He's gone on and he's with Awaken the Dawn. So we just prayed. We're like, okay, Lord, you've got the right house for us, So it was kind of down to the midnight hour, kind of a last minute thing, because we were on kind of another trip here, and we were leaving the next morning. Hadn't had any success, and that night, right before we went to sleep, there was a house that came up that was a for sale by owner house, and it's just down the road from Morningstar. And long story short, we were the first ones to see it, and we put in an offer and got the house. Praise the Lord. So
awesome.
So Gary and I moved here a little over 3 years ago. So I'm the worship director. I serve here at Morningstar. We have a church. It's a large ministry that encompasses a lot of things. So basically I serve as like a worship pastor over the church aspect of our ministry, and then lead worship for a lot of our conferences. We do have a school here called Morningstar University, and that has a whole school of worship track. So I direct all of that and do a lot of the teaching, and that's probably my favorite part of the entire job.
Yeah.
And then a lot of, because we are very conference driven, I help to plan worship conferences and things of that nature. So it's been a very busy season. There's a lot that's been going on here in the past 3 years. And God's just been really faithful. We're seeing him begin to move in some ways that are giving me hope and anticipation. For where he's taking us. And that's what we've been up to. My husband is the lead pastor of Morningstar Fellowship Church. So we're a team, and that's really fun to have that, to have that kind of partnership, with him. So
that's great.
It's been good.
Yeah. Awesome. Are you? I know there's a prayer room there on site. Robert Rummage, last I heard, was still overseeing that. Yeah. Are you involved in that at all?
I am. Yeah. I am. I do a set every Thursday night with a friend of mine. Real simple, just prophetic worship, and then my students in the School of Worship, I teach all of them basically the harp and bowl model.
Yeah.
We've been doing that ever since I came here, and so my students do sets, like full team. We do intercession sets, and then we do worship with the Word.
Yeah.
Because we have a class called Harp and Bowl, and so this past year, we kind of go back and forth, but this past year we focused in a lot more on worship with the Word, which means, singing and praying the Word and singing it back to God, and just really unpacking the depths of Scripture. And we actually decided, let's go through the Beatitudes one at a time, and it was amazing. Just
wow.
We'd come together in class, 1 week, and sit around the tables with our laptops and our Bibles and all of our study tools and just dig into one beatitude.
Yeah.
Blessed are those who hunger and thirst, whichever one it was, and just kind of get filled up and fueled up, and then we would, do our sets together. And I just love watching how the Word transforms us. So
yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, so
our church has been going through Sermon on the Mount. It's so rich. There's so much in there. Yeah.
It is. Yeah, I love that. I I love intentionally going deep in the Word, not like a chapter at a time, but of just one verse or two verses,
Right.
really unpacking it. And when you can do it together, like the revelation that this person gets awakens more revelation in my heart, and you're kind of like pinging off of each other, in the spirit. It's really cool. And for my students, most of them are young and they've never done anything like this before, so they're learning how to do this, even in a devotional way for their own lives moving forward. So our prayer room here, it's called the Bob Jones Vision Center, and it's just across the parking lot from the main building. And I can't remember how many hours we're doing a week now. It's quite a bit.
Yeah.
I love the prayer room.
Yeah. I know. I think we talked about that some before when you were on here. So I do too. I'd love to talk about school. It seemed like you lit up a little bit when you mentioned the school and that kind of thing. What do you enjoy teaching? What's some of your favorite stuff that you get to talk about or train students in?
Yeah, well, I love a lot of it. I mean, the harp and bowl class is very enjoyable. I do love that, and
it's fun.
My students seem to really. That seems to be one of the classes that impacts them the most. We have things like music theory. I don't teach music theory, thank the Lord, because I think it would be a nightmare. But we have a great teacher. All my students love music theory, which is just wonderful.
That's good.
Yeah, that's a good sign.
Not everybody does.
No.
Yeah.
When you have the right teacher, it really makes a difference. And we have a songwriting class, of course.
Oh, yeah.
I love songwriting. I love Morningstar. Historically, has emphasized creativity and has emphasized writing original songs, not just to try and write a popular song or anything, but more like to capture the essence of what is the Lord saying.
Yeah.
Tapping into like that prophetic swirl, if you will, and releasing that. So songwriting has been really strong this past year, particularly in the spring semester. We just went after that. I felt like the Lord told me to really emphasize songwriting with my students, and so I carved out time in my schedule to like have appointments with them if they had a song idea that I could help, shape it. And then we have a class called Worship Team Dynamics, which is, designed to help all the students learn how to play together as a team.
Yeah.
And so it's very hands-on, and a lot of that class this past semester was focusing on, okay, this person's written this song, let's work on it as a team, and shape the arrangement, and then we would do like a demo version of the song. And I mean, my students, honestly, Matthew, some of the songs they wrote, I was blown away, like
wow.
What was being released. So that was really enjoyable and exciting to be a part of. For me, at my age, being like a Gen X person, it's so exciting to be able to just pour into the next generation, the 20-somethings, the college age students, and watch their passion and their hunger. It's just a joy, really, to do that. So I'm trying to think if there's any. Those are the main classes that I teach on a weekly basis. We did also have we do a biblical foundations class in worship, and then in the fall, and then in the spring we do worship history. And that's a load of fun too, because we take it from first great awakening, like way back there, all the way to present day.
Wow.
And it's what's funny, Matthew, is like looking at these students who, like, you're trying to explain like what happened in the 90s. We have a lot, to talk about in the 90s, and none of them were born. Like,
it's wild.
Like, who's Lyndall Cooley? I'm like, how do you not know who Lyndall Cooley is?
Yeah, back in the 1900s,
Yeah, back in the 1900s.
Yeah, that's so funny. Have you gotten a copy of Lester Ruth's book or books on the history of contemporary worship?
I think my husband has those.
Okay. Yeah. He's it's been in the last couple of years he started releasing those, but it's very interesting in terms of like kind of what's happened from about the 1950s up to the 1990s, kind of that era, kind of the emergence of what we would kind of call modern worship or contemporary worship.
Right.
And he's a professor over at Duke Divinity, but he and his team did a lot of research and uncovered some of the different strands of how it emerged. Jesus People movement, but then some other things that you wouldn't necessarily expect. So it's really, really cool and very interesting. It is funny when you grow up in, younger people, they just think, oh, it's always been like this, right? This is just the way it is. Cause it's like, this is not always the way it's been.
No, it's like, let me tell you.
Yeah.
It is. Yeah. It does eventually give them a little more appreciation for where we are. But we did, it's funny, the movie Jesus Revolution that came out a couple years ago, it was released in the theaters at like the perfect time for us. We were right there. That was exactly what we were talking about in the semester. So we all went to the theater together, and it just really helped everything come to life for the students. But what else is interesting that's kind of nestled in there is the latter rain movement,
right?
And how much that impacted praise. And
yes,
worship.
that's what Lester Ruth, he talks a lot about that in the book.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure but Gary has those books.
Yeah, that's probably is what it is. Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah, probably more so than even before the Jesus People movement. I think that movement was the latter rain movement was what was stirring up some of that emphasis on praise and worship. Yeah,
definitely. I think like one of the things that stood out to me, because my roots are Pentecostal. I grew up Assemblies of God, and so like a Pentecostal denomination. And in the Pentecostal movement, they were all about kind of like what they call tarrying in the presence, and kind of waiting on the Lord to do something. And responding to that. But in the latter rain movement, that I don't know if I'm saying his name right. There's a guy named Reg Lozelle, I think.
That's right. Yep.
Yeah, and he started teaching on and emphasizing actually beginning to enter in with praise, begin to praise, and hosting the presence of the Lord, rather than what we're waiting for Him to do something. It's no, we're going to actively enter in with praise and with spontaneous praise as well. Spontaneous worship began to, I think, be emphasized again at that time, and that really paved the way then for things that happened afterwards with the more charismatic streams and prophetic and all that it's just so interesting when you look at the history and how things merge together and intertwine. It
is. It's very interesting. So you're we have, I guess back to the 90s, we probably remember some of the worship, that kind of thing. Worship's obviously changed a lot, even in our lifetime in many ways. You're hanging out with these young students. What are you seeing happening, your perspective for these young people that are in your school, in the worship school? What's God doing? What's I don't know, just kind of what's the feel of what's happening right now in the next generation from your perspective?
Yeah, well, like you said, from the perspective that I have and the ones that the Lord has sent here, I've noticed songs that they're drawn to, and what they're drawn to tends to be more they love the spontaneous, they love the kind of lingering, they love upper room, and they love that kind of vibe. They don't seem really enticed by the grandeur of certain things. I think they're looking for the authentic expression, and also another thing that intrigues me, and maybe it's because a lot of different movements are doing this, like they're reaching back in a very interesting way to some of the older songs. And it's like fresh for them. I find that I love it because, of course, some of those older songs, like in an almost nostalgic way, touch my heart. But watching them want to sing those songs is really interesting. But yeah, my students and the kind of the young ones that are around here do seem really drawn to like the opening up space and exploring that space with the Lord, like and being creative together as a team seemed to be something that was really resonating with them and responding to each other, I guess you might say.
Cool. Yeah, I think when when the stuff at Asbury broke out a couple years ago, it was just they just worshipped all day. You know what I mean? Yeah. I think it was kind of like a good indicator to me of maybe what was in the heart of this, this young generation was just a desire just to linger in the presence of God and a hunger for worship and I've seen it even in my own kids as they're getting older here, and it's very, very encouraging to me. So I want to jump back to the songwriting. You were talking about the value of songwriting. You've written some great songs. If people haven't heard your music, I'd encourage them to go look up some of your recordings. Actually, you guys did one through Morningstar within the last year or so. Yes. It was excellent. Really, really enjoyed that. It felt fresh and right on time. Really, really enjoyed that. What's the name of the album again? I don't even remember.
Halal Yahweh is the name.
Halal Yahweh. Yeah. I encourage folks to go look that one up. So you're an awesome songwriter. I'm curious, do you think most churches should be writing their own music, or is that something you should only if kind of the Lord's leading you to do it? Obviously, you're at a church that's emphasized that now for years and encouraged a culture of creativity and songwriting. I mean, in some ways, it's become a little bit trendy. I mean, there's a lot of people writing songs and collaborating, that kind of thing. I mean, what's kind of your take on songwriting? Do you think we need more? Should most churches be doing this, or should folks just be singing some of the great songs that, they're kind of singing everywhere?
Yeah, and that's a great question because I think about it a lot. I love the fact that there are certain songs that everybody knows, and when we come together in a gathering or, a citywide gathering or whatever, we can all sing a song everyone knows. Everyone knows Holy Forever right now, or there's certain songs that bind us together really easily, and I think that that's important. I think it is good and right to sing songs that corporately bring us together, but at the same time, and it's not like so honestly, do we need more songs? Well, I mean, we do have a lot of songs right now. I, as a worship leader, trying to keep up with, the latest songs and albums that are being released. It's a wonderful predicament to be in. There's only so many songs that I can teach and that we can do. So trying to figure out what those songs should be sometimes can be a little tricky. But I do think there's always a value to writing original songs, whether you're a big church or a small church, because, and I would say, I think the goal doesn't necessarily need to be let's write a song that maybe we can record it and maybe it'll become famous or something.
Right.
I think the goal should be, let's tune into what the Holy Spirit's saying to our congregation, to our city. What are we hearing the Lord say, or what's something that's on our hearts, or what even in a personal testimonial way, what's the Lord doing in our community? What's the Lord doing in our hearts? Let's work together on that. I think there's a real beauty in a worship team, even if it's not awesome, just work. Just the act of coming together and being vulnerable, sharing what's the Lord is saying to you, working on ideas, playing together. The whole creative process can be very strengthening for your team.
Right.
If you do it as a team, or if there's a person on your team that has a bit more of a bent, towards writing lyrics or whatever. I just think making space for that is really healthy, and you might get some really good stuff that becomes like songs that that you guys write. There's a certain I don't know, like, I don't want to say anointing, but it's kind of like that, like, because it's from your heart, like, to the Lord, rather than singing something that somebody else wrote. So I think it's really valuable to do it. It doesn't have to be priority number one, but I think if you can begin to, because if you spend time, like, I think it's so important for worship teams to spend time worshiping together off the stage.
Right. Yes.
Finding time to just get in a room, strip it all down, and sing together, sing to the Lord, pray together, and sometimes out of if you make a space like that and you're intentional, there are things that will be birthed out of that can become songs, and probably will become songs actually.
Yeah.
When the Lord shows up in that way, and so I think that should be a priority for us, because these days, Matthew, like, you probably remember back in the day, I can remember we would have we'd have like a Thursday night band rehearsal or whatever. We'd have our choir practice or whatever. And nowadays, I think a lot of churches don't do that.
It's true.
Everybody shows up on Sunday morning. We've got Planning Center. We have all the tools that help make things smooth. And there are a lot of benefits to that, certainly. But what happens, though, is a lot of times we're kind of fragmented. And the only time we're together making music is is in sound check, before the service on Sunday. And so people are busy. It's a little more challenging to find that time. But if you'll make time as a team to worship together, you'll be surprised at how much creatively begins to be stirred, and how at the same time your hearts are more knit together. You trust each other more. There's a confidence as a team, like that we're on the same trajectory. We're hearing the Lord together. We're going after something,
Yeah, for sure. I think some of my favorite moments when I was younger at worship band practices or whatever was probably just the hanging out with everybody, more so than like, oh, now we're practiced, well rehearsed, but like the camaraderie that comes from the time together is huge. So I have very, very fond memories of just, hanging out with other musicians or just goofing off, jamming or whatever. And it can be a lot of fun. And it is a little sad that a lot of churches aren't doing that anymore. I understand the logic behind it too, just, letting people be home with their families, an extra night and that kind of thing. But finding some kind of space for just worshiping together, being together, and space where creativity can flow, is a huge value.
Yeah, absolutely. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, hey, I think we're coming up on time here for the first half of our conversation here, Kelanie. I wanted to give you a few minutes to share. I mentioned your music. Obviously, you said you guys are doing conferences. You've got the school at Morningstar. Feel free to just share about any of that stuff and maybe how people can connect with you and what you guys are doing there.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, if you can spell my first name, you can find me pretty easily just about anywhere. Since I have a little bit of a different name, I have music on Spotify and all the usual places. I've released a lot of albums over the years. I do like the Halal Yahweh album, which is Morningstar's latest release. I would definitely point people towards that.
Yeah.
It was recorded live here at Morningstar at a conference called Worship and Warfare, which I believe we're going to have another one of those coming up in March of 2026. Worship and Warfare is a phenomenal conference that obviously we heavily emphasize worship, extended times of worship. We don't have to be in a hurry. And just all the expressions. We bring in Zion Dance Project.
Oh yeah,
and they're amazing. So there's dance and flags and banners, and it's just such a powerful time of worship and ministry, and really, really solid teaching, and the kind of teaching that equips you and activates you So it's a great resource for worshipers and for worship teams. So that's a good thing for people just to be aware of and maybe check out. And then the other thing would be Morningstar University.
Yeah.
Especially if you're a young person, there's not like an age limit per se, but if you are a young person or maybe you want to do a gap year even, just give God a gap year. This is a great place to check out. And our School of Worship program within Morningstar University is, I mean, I'm super biased, of course, but it's top notch, and it's you have unique opportunities here that you might not get somewhere else.
Yeah.
The atmosphere here is a very prophetic one, and it's the kind of place where you will be stretched and you will, have opportunities within a safe space to try things, make mistakes, learn how to hear the Lord, learn how to be spontaneous, learn how to lead. So it's definitely something you can check out. Morningstar Ministries is easy to find.
Yeah.
Online, you can Google it and get to just about anything you need there. So
yeah, awesome. Great. Well, I'm excited to continue our conversation. We are going to do that, but it's going to be a bonus episode. And so that will be available exclusively for our paid subscribers on Substack. And so if you are not a paid subscriber, we'll have the link down in the description and you can sign up and do that. Super cheap, but that's just how we're able to fund the production of this podcast and keep resourcing you guys through Presence Pioneers. But I'm excited. I'm going to ask Kelanie about creativity, and I'm going to ask her to speak to pastors and house prayer leaders on how to cultivate environments of prophecy and creativity and worship. I think there's a lot more we can probably talk about, and so I'm excited to continue that in part 2. Kelanie, this has been great. Thanks for being on.
Yeah, thank you.